I think you have to say something about what did you do to stay current in teaching. And so I used to go to Chautauqua courses that Dr. George Miner in the physics department has run for many years. And originally it was an NSF, National Science Foundation, program for keeping teachers current and also to broaden their perspectives. And so I performed the duties of a teaching consultant for about 5 years, I believe. And it was which involved visiting classrooms at the invitation of teachers who were, in the beginning it was, there was a teaching fellows program where teachers that had been here about 3 years or so were invited to participate in this teaching, in a seminar program, and there were different activities they had. One of the activities was to visit a teacher, another teacher, an experienced teacher, classroom, and then they would come to the classroom, and then later on, after about a week of this visitation business, then we would get together and discuss what happened in the classroom, and they would ask me questions. A lot of the questions I couldn't answer, but it was a very, it really, well, I think what it did mainly in terms of the university's teaching environment, it really opened it up, because prior to that there had been very little evaluation of teaching going on, and very little, other than just the department chair, there wasn't any program to have people discuss teaching. It was like everybody was individuals, and so, you know, there was very little interaction in terms of, and no professionalism in terms of teaching as an area of investigation. I was involved with making recommendations about what kind of media we would need in the Chud Auditorium, for instance. The periodic table down there in room, I forget the number of the room now, old 218 it used to be before they changed the numbers. But in any event, Chud Auditorium, that periodic table in there, we had it made in about 1980 or 82, I forget which year it was, and that's 10 feet by 16 feet, and it's got 40 watt light bulb in back of each box that represents the elements, and so we put that in Chud Auditorium, and so I've been involved with that kind of stuff. And the original projectors, we had a 3-color projector in there at one time that was kind of cumbersome, but we got involved with that media kind of stuff, which we used in class. And I've taken a lot of those courses where we go to, one of the places I went 2 or 3 times was Christian Brothers College, which is now Christian Brothers University, down in Memphis. And so I'd go down there for like a week, and was supported by the department. And also, I've also taken, you know, workshops and so on, for instance, topics like industrial chemistry, you know, chemistry in industry, for instance. And so I'd get more examples of things I could use in class from those kinds of things, and took a nuclear magnetic resonance thing down in the University of Georgia, and spent a week down there one time, and different things. So there was one on solid state chemistry, and I did that, and different things. So that's one of the things that I tried to do, was to stay current and try to keep up with what's going on. So,
do you think students have changed?
The student population is pretty much the same as it was, I think. They're still, you know, 18-year-old students, and I dealt a lot with freshmen, and so there's still the transition to the university life, and there's still the same kind of problems, and they get homesick, and all this, the roommate business and, the whole thing that people have to learn about and get adjusted to. So in that sense, I don't think there's been a lot of change not in the student environment, but I mean the types of students we have. But there have been very good students. I really have enjoyed teaching, and in fact, this one I went to my 50th reunion, high school class reunion. This was 2 years ago, and so one of my good friends from high school, he reminded me. He said, I asked him. I said, "Didn't I have your daughter in class?" And he said to me, he says, "Yeah, you flunked her twice." And I said, "Oh, Jim, I'm sorry." He says, No. He says, "You did her the biggest favor that anybody ever did for her, because she learned that she wasn't cut out for this, and she's switched to the School of Business, and she's now making a 6-figure salary someplace." I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And then as time went along, I thought I really understood what students were like coming out of high school, since I was a high school teacher. And so I got the feeling that I didn't understand what was going on anymore, and that my assumptions were not all the same, and not all correct. So I decided to contact local high school teachers, and what we did was I first sent a kind of a letter to them introducing myself and saying that I was interested in learning what kind of programs they were teaching, what their syllabus was like, what books they were using. I think when I went to the conferences, the Lilly conferences, for instance, over at Miami, I went to those every year during the time I was a teaching consultant, and that opened up my eyes as to what other things you could do in the classroom and so forth. And I got interested in because I teach chemistry, there's a lot of things in chemistry that you can't picture, and so I kept up with what was going on in the field of chemical education through the American Chemical Societies. The ACS has a really tremendous education component, and they have a journal, the Journal of Chemical Education, and I subscribe to that and have for many years. And so I was interested because I was trying to teach concepts that were not intuitive, and so there was software coming out, and I used to buy the software and then use that in my classes and so forth. Do a lot of demonstrations. You learned how to use I call it a television overhead projector. And now you've got things on CDs and so on, and it's all really kind of mushroomed since I first got involved. But the models in my office over there are the ones that I used in class all the time. And so used to do a lot of demonstrations in class, and to try and bring home things that are kind of mysterious and make it more understandable. We want them to be competent. You got to be competent. You got to know what you're doing, and you have to understand things. And so I'm looking. That's what I'm looking for, competence. And so when I would give tests, for example, I would give problem-solving tests, and also they have to explain things. And so I would give tests like that. I didn't give very many multiple choice tests because I didn't learn anything from that, really. But if they had to explain something to me on written and so forth, or show all their work in solving a problem, then I would know what they don't understand, and it would help me. I would learn something from grading those papers, and so I think that has helped me as much as anything in understanding where the students are coming from, what they understand, what they don't understand, and what concepts are really difficult. So whatever I did was trying to make it so that there was some connection between normal observation of things, phenomena, and understanding the basis behind it. So that's why I like to do demonstrations and show them things. And it's been the same with students that I've had work in the lab, for instance. That if they do something like this and they get involved, they become emotionally involved with it, and that's very important. And it's their project, and they blossom. Even students who you might think would not be particularly talented, but they get involved and they work real hard, and so I've had students get that kind of an experience and go on and do things. There's a couple of them that are chairman of chemistry departments now in other colleges, and are teachers and researchers and so forth. And one of the other things I think that's unique about UD, other than having this kind of a program that's now it's kind of university-wide and so forth, is that we have most of our students are undergraduates, and I've been involved with undergraduate research here, and I have lots of students that went through and did experiments on equipment like this with me, and that's what I enjoyed that very much in my teaching experience here.